Who the hell are you, and why are you calling me sister? For this young girl who looked exactly the same as herself, Ayaka thought before and after speculating her identity. My origin is very peculiar, and sister does not know my identity is very normal. In fact, I am the blood sister sealed back in the year with the evil containment wave. So many years I have grown up. The blood sealed in the past. Ayaka murmured. A bright light crossed her mind, and the past happened like a videotape. Yes, that was more than 10 years ago when she had not yet taken over the kami position. In order to choose the kami successor, the old kami sent her to another world 300 years ago, and then because she killed that world's great demon King Piccolo, the kami and Dragon Balls disappeared. To prevent future invasion of the earth by powerful people and the plight of no one to resist, Ayaka sealed a bottle of her own blood with the evil containment wave. So, the girl who looked exactly like herself was the blood she left behind in that world to grow up. Ayaka came up to Ayaba in a flash, with the tip of her nose only a few centimeters away from the other side, and looked oddly measured up. In a sense, Ayaba is herself, but because the existence of the world barrier blocked the key of the original, had the cells from the original body was using the immortal body ability to be reborn and the creation of a unique personality. Although Ayaba had its own personality, she was born because of Ayaka. She was already deeply imprinted with Ayaka's mark from the bottom of her heart, and everything was centered on Ayaka. From top to bottom, she carefully examined Ayaba. Her small hands were constantly kneading the soft and tender skin of the young girl. Ayaka smiled and retreated to a place a few meters away from Ayaba. Well, the body type is well proportioned and standard, and feels soft and boneless, the body is perfect. Ayaka was very satisfied with the fine review, then took Ayaba's small hand towards the nearest island and flew away, excitedly said, "Come, let's find a place to talk about you first, so I can understand what happened later in that world." Ayaba smiled and hummed, and with a light smile, she was pulled by Ayaka to an uninhabited island. "First of all, when did you come out of the seal of the evil containment wave?" "Well, I have actually released a long time ago, about a few years before the plot started, and that's when Master Mateto probably also worried about the comfort of the earth, so he let me out early." Ayaba sat next to Ayaka, smelling the faint fragrance of Ayaka's body, and her spirit was very relaxed. "After coming out, sister's image and some things about the Dragon Ball have been floating in my mind, before I have been unable to understand. Then I asked Mr. Mateto and learned that sister came from another world. After that time, I worked hard to practice because I wanted to come over here to see when I was strong." Ayaka nodded. After all, Ayaba was generated by her own blood, and according to the special nature of her genes, it was not surprising that Ayaba had her memories. "Because I was born of blood, so after regaining my physical body for a whole decade, my strength has stagnated and even regressed a bit." This was understandable. Although the body of immortality guarantees the continuity of life, it really worked with this ability. The after effects were still very drastic. When Ayaka was killed by Dani, the resurrection, if not coincided with the development of adolescence, the cells have full vitality. It was estimated to stagnate for more than a decade. Ayaka continued to ask, "What about later? The plot of Dragon Ball should change, right?" Ayaba nodded slightly and said, "The future is different, but eventually Son Goku still worshipped under Master Roshi to learn martial arts, until the time of the Raditz invasion of Earth plot was pulled back. Later, I became Super Saiyan 2 to kill the perfect cell. Before coming here, I have run another test to determine the eggs of Majin Buu do not exist on Earth through the time machine created by Mr. Popo. By the way, how about the plot that happens here? The androids only appeared a few days ago." Ayaka said with a big smile. "Strange, why is the time so far off? I was there after hundreds of years. Maybe it's because of Mr. Popo's time machine. The substance was two worlds in itself. The time machine was not really a time traveler, and it just tore apart two spaces. But it turned out, coincidentally, that Ayaba had found the right target space. Ayaka had her own opinion on this point. Once she used the time machine to reach the other space, and now Ayaba had come over. It seemed that the two spaces should be relatively close to each other. In other words, they had a very close relationship with each other. By the way, who were you fighting with just now? If I hadn't reinforced the Earth before, you guys would have destroyed the Earth with such power, Ayaka asked curiously. Ayaba spitted out her tongue, put her head back, embarrassed. It was a silver-haired girl. I hadn't seen her before, and somehow she found me and struck out at me in anger, and the girl even knew my name. Even know about you? What is the other party's origin? Forget it. Put it aside for now. I'll take you to the lookout. Sure. Ayaba happily responded. Ayaba was happy. She found that her sister was just like she imagined, gentle and considerate. Staying by her sister's side, her heart was particularly peaceful, and it was really worthy of being her sister. In the lookout corridor, Son Goku's face was frozen, and other Dragon Ball warriors together quietly leaned on the corridor wall. Occasionally there were enemies, they would feel excited, but in recent times the frequency of the appearance of enemies on Earth was too frequent and too mysterious. Androids appeared only a few days, and now there were several mysterious Ki emerged. The successive pressure had made them anxious, but now they could only wait for the investigation results. The space shook slightly, and Ayaka appeared in the corridor. Seeing her return, Son Goku and others did not coincide to welcome. But when they saw the red-haired girl next to Ayaka, they hesitantly stopped and could not help but look up Ayaka and the red-haired girl. Ayaka, is this your relative? She looks like you. Krillin said in awe. Yes, except for the hair color. The rest is exactly the same as Ayaka. There was a resemblance in the world, but there was no resemblance like Ayaka and the red-haired girl next to her. Son Goku was surprised, but at the same time, he also noticed the red-haired girl's ki, her ki, as thick and pure as sister. Really? Ayaba's appearance initially attracted the group. Only then did they notice her ki and reveal appalled expressions. Let me introduce her. This is my twin sister, Ayaba. She first arrived on Earth, and the ki just now is hers. Ayaba, they are Son Goku, Krillin, Yamaha. Ayaka pointed to Son Goku and others to introduce them one by one, and when introducing Ayaba, Ayaka referred to her as her twin sister. Ayaba showed a smile and greeted Son Goku and the others. So it was her twin sister, no wonder she and Ayaka look exactly the same. Everyone nodded in a daze, and this reason was really impeccable. The only doubt was that both of their sisters were a little too strong. Could their genes be that good? Mama, this is the peach I just picked. You taste it. Who was gradually appearing as a young girl, came running far away, carrying a large white and red peaches basket in her hand. When she got closer, she saw the red-haired woman standing next to Ayaka, who was close to her, and asked in surprise, who is this person who looks so much like Mama? Ayaba, this is my adopted child, named Ayam. So that was it, an adopted child of the sister. Ayaba looked at the slightly slender little girl, and a brilliant light flashed in her eyes, then quickly revealed a smile, put her arm around Ayam, and said, Sister's child is my child, right? I am the same as your mama. You have to call me auntie. Ayam instinctively resisted the inexplicable additional auntie. One adult was enough, and she did not want to be governed. Her little face set up, displeased. Who is your child? I do not admit it. I have only one mama. The little girl is so rude. ZZ. Two pairs of beautiful, clear eyes flashed with electricity. Ayaba and Ayam inexplicably got cold feet. Bang bang. With two thuds, Ayaka nonchalantly knocked the two on the head, casually said, You two don't play around. Give me a good time in the future. You really make me so stiff just after meeting. Ayam shrank her head and gave a bow, and greeted Ayaba. As for Ayaba, although the strength was very close to Ayaka, she appeared to be very receptive to Ayaka's lessons. She hadn't been educated about the rare enjoyment of having someone in charge of her expression. With Ayam's disobedience to discipline, it was totally the opposite extreme. Mr. Son Goku, what's going on? Trunks came out of the hyperbolic time chamber. When he saw the crowd, he asked suspiciously. In the back, Vegeta walked behind with a cool face and showed a few moments of surprise in his eyes when he saw Ayaba. Ah, Trunks, you guys finished training. Well, the hair has become much longer. Well, after spending so much time in it, it is only natural, But who is this lady? How does she look so much like Miss Ayaka? Krillin volunteered to come forward to explain. You do not know. She is Ayaka's sister, she just arrived on Earth, and the strength is very powerful. Is Miss Ayaka's sister another Saiyan? Trunks had a somewhat strange expression, and then shook his head with a bitter smile. History had been changed to the point that Son Goku did not suffer from heart disease, and now there was another Saiyan who was not in history. Well, Ayaba is a very powerful Saiyan. Just now, we suddenly sensed terrible ki from the lower realm. We thought there was a new enemy, only to find out later that it was Ayaka's sister. Krillin's hand dance, he looked exaggerated said. When Trunks heard, he couldn't help but rejoice. At first glance he knew that this new arrival strong big subhuman was belonged to their side. Great, with Miss Ayaba here, we can deal with the android more easily. Vegeta couldn't help but sneered, his face disdain, stupid, even the Super Saiyan cannot deal with the android. What is the point of adding a slightly stronger Saiyan? More than a year of arduous training, Vegeta thinks he had surpassed the Super Saiyan realm, and his confidence once swelled up. Not to mention the female Saiyan of unknown origin, even Ayaka, Vegeta also had the confidence to defeat her. However, Vegeta forgot that Ayaka became a Super Saiyan days far more than him. Noticing Vegeta's gaze, Ayaba turned back to him with a faint smile. Transparent ki then surged over, Vegeta's body shook, his face immediately gloomy. So deep, the strength of the ki is even below me. Worthy of Ayaka's sibling. Such a same headache. Facing Ayaka's sisters, the good mood immediately became sinless miscellaneous. He was thinking quickly of something, sneering, they should have extremely noble Saiyan blood flowing in their bodies, otherwise it would not be so strong, but this prince should have surpassed them by now. By the way, how is the investigation of that time machine that appeared later, where is that monster now? Trunks saw the atmosphere was a little delicate. He had understood the Vegeta temperament, so he hurriedly digressed and asked. Son Goku said with a gloomy face, the monster called Cell from the appearance to now constantly attack human in the cities, there have been dozens of cities destroyed. What's more abominable is that his whereabouts are puzzling. Because Piccolo and the old Kami have fusion after the Earth's Dragon Ball disappeared, those who died I'm afraid will be in some trouble. We can't let him go on like this. Mr. Goku, I will go with Vegeta now to stop Cell, please go in with Gohan to train. Trunks said with a nod, he did not want the world to become the same as his place. Son Goku nodded and said to Son Gohan, well, Gohan, let's go in. Vegeta raised an eyebrow, the corners of his mouth showed a cold smile, said, Kakarot, it's useless for you to go in now. When you come out, you will find that the androids and that guy named Cell have all been destroyed by me. Well, if that's the case it's best. Son Goku turned around and smiled, leading Son Gohan into the Spirit Time House. When Trunks and Vegeta were about to fly out of the lookout, Ayaka nibbled on a few large peaches and walked over to Trunks, wait, here are a few senzu beans for emergencies. Also, our real enemy is that android named Cell. For Android 17 and 18, you can leave them alone. Thank you, I know what to do. The android in this world are different from mine, 17 and the others are not doing anything wrong, I won't do anything to them. Trunks took a bag of senzu beans, then smiled and flew down the lookout together with Vegeta. Looking at Trunks leaving, Ayaka shook her head, thinking that Cell should have obtained a very large amount of life essence, but she actually did not see any movement for so long. She knew that the matter of Cell could not be rushed. Piccolo had already preceded them in their search for Cell's location, and the results would soon be available. As soon as Cell's whereabouts were revealed, she was ready to destroy him at the first opportunity. When Goku comes out, Ayaba, you go into the hyperbolic time chamber with Iam to practice. Ayaka said lightly. Ayaba and Iam immediately jumped up, especially Iam. Her little face turned red, discontented, shouted, "Why should I join her? I do not want to practice with her. Mama, will you practice with me?" No. Ayaka simply refused. She saw Ayaba and Iam discontent, and said in a moderate tone, "I do not intend to go in this time. Ayaba, your strength is still much worse than mine, just go inside to me to make up for it. Give Iam good training, Iam's bloodline is not bad, make sure she exceeds the Super Saiyan stage." Seeing Ayaka's iron determination to let the two of them go in to train, Ayaba and Iam just nodded. Ayaka looked at Krillin and others, thought for a moment, and said, "Because Piccolo fused with the old Kami, the Earth lost the Dragon Balls, and we can no longer revive those killed humans. So, I plan to take a trip to the new planet Namek to bring a Namekian over, so that he can become the new Kami of Earth." Earth's next battle was more brutal, it could not be without the Dragon Balls, and Ayaka character really did not fit the appropriate Earth's Kami. Thinking of the original little Namekian Den, the most appropriate was to take the original route to let him take over as the Earth's Kami. Let the Namekian become the Kami, then the Earth's Dragon Balls can be resurrected. Wait for Goku and other to come out, then send Ayaba and Iam to go in. Next, Krillin and others go in. It is a pity that the girls are not on Earth, otherwise their strength will also play a great help. Ayaka's detailed arrangements were made. Krillin and others had self-awareness, they knew that their strength against the androids was not much, so they had no objection for being arranged to train. Moreover, the girls went to the depths of the universe to help the North Kai to manage the order. They were not on Earth, otherwise they had now no less than Son Goku's strength, and could play a big role. Or I'll go to the new planet Namek. You guys, take good care of the Earth. In a relatively remote mound forest, Piccolo fought with Cell. After absorbing countless life essence, Cell's strength had recovered a lot, but also subsided for a long time. The energy degraded through time and space to get replenished. Surprisingly, it was on par with the fusion Piccolo. Surprisingly, you become so powerful, in order to reach the current energy, you actually sacrificed how many lives? Piccolo's face was iron blue, his heart was shocked in anger. Cell grunted coldly and said in a disdainful voice, "Sacrifice? They should feel honored to be a part of the energy inside my body. In my time, 17 and 18 have been wiped out by that boy Trunks, but luckily I found the time machine to come here. Hey, when I absorb the 17 and 18 of this era to become a complete body, I will be invincible. You won't be allowed to get away with it. No one can stop me from becoming perfect." The two of them talked with their lips, then alerted each other and engaged again. In an instant, the violent energy scattered out in all directions, as if world had entered the end of the world, shrouded with a horrible and suffocating atmosphere. In the distant forest, 17 excitedly drove a small car on the slope all the way, bumping and bumping. 17, can't you just settle down and pick a better road and not rampage here? 18 sat in the passenger seat with a dissatisfied face. Isn't this fun? We haven't had such reckless relaxation and fun in years. 17 giggled with disinterest and drove faster as soon as he put gas in the car. Really? 18 couldn't help her crazy sister. She put one hand out the window, waving a piece of energy at the trees in front. At once, the unending whirlwind sweeping through, the mountain path immediately widened a few meters, the small car drove peacefully. Tick. 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 Sitting in the back seat, 16 opened her eyes and said with an unchanged expression, two very powerful energies have appeared ahead, expected to be several times more powerful than Son Goku and the others. Ha, there are still stronger than Son Goku and the others on Earth? This is interesting. 17 licked her lips, her clear and beautiful face like a blooming lily flower radiating a charming glow. You want to go over there and take a look? 18 asked. The other side's energy is too strong, I don't suggest you go over there. 16 voiced her opposition. 16, you're too careful. They can't beat the three of us together even if they're strong. 17 said as she drove. Yeah, just gave up on that Son Goku target. A new energy source has appeared, isn't that interesting? 18 leaned on the window, letting the light wind blow her hair, the necklace around her neck swinging in the wind. 16 was silent for a moment. 17 thought she was convinced by them and stepped on the gas. She drove the car towards the place where the energy emanated. At the other end, Piccolo gradually fell into the wind, gathering a number of strong bloodline cells on the battle durability was far beyond what Piccolo was expected. In a short time, Piccolo began to fall into a disadvantageous situation. Ah! With his hands braced in front of his chest, ready to unleash a powerful move, Piccolo gasped heavily and roared, a cluster of shimmering crystal bright energy ball generated from his hands. The energy was strongly compressed and looked transparent and solid, very scary. After this, there were nearly 100 more red energy balls in a row, and the dense energy balls were scattered and surrounded Cell firmly. Damn, you have no way to escape. Piccolo sneered and looked up. The entire sky was dyed scarlet by his energy balls, as long as he gave the order, those spheres containing terrifying energy would immediately explode. Under such a powerful explosion, he did not believe that Cell could survive. Explosion. With a soft cry, the sky immediately came deafening fierce explosions. At once, the violent energy swept up, linked into a wide area of the big blast, the temperature of the air suddenly increased, and in a flash it could melt steel. The rocks beneath his feet emitted searing heat, and a large area of forest turned into ashes, and the thick smoke was immediately destroyed by the energy scattered in the air just as soon as it was created. In just a breath, only the bare hot earth and rocks remained around, all trees and lakes had disappeared into thin air. This should destroy him now, right? Piccolo panted and propped up his arms, his forehead spilling beads of sweat. However, without waiting for him to relax for long, a fierce beeping sound came faintly from the sky. When he looked up, Piccolo sucked in a breath of cold air and a strong sense of frustration hit him. A dark red fireball emitting blue arcs could be seen, and a figure could be vaguely seen in the fireball. Cell was actually intact and hiding in the fireball. Energy shield. Piccolo twitched his lips bitterly. The dark red shield dissipated. Cell's posture was calm and aloof, slowly landing down, moving his muscles and bones with a crackling sound. Two insect-like vertical lines of pupils watching Piccolo. The tail with needles behind him kept twisting, and his hoarse voice came out, "I'm very sorry, Piccolo, you didn't manage to kill me. Now, be a good boy and become part of my energy." Hearing this, Piccolo's heart slowly sank. Well, someone is approaching here again. Suddenly, Cell's body shook and shouted in surprise, surprisingly, it's the scent of 17 and 18. They're nearby. With a whoosh, Cell decisively gave up on Piccolo, and his body flew high into the air to expand his vision. In the distance, a few people climbed out of the overturned cart, and it was none other than 18 and the girls. *T, how can this happen? How can they get over here? Damn, must not let Cell absorb them, or there is no one to stop him. Piccolo's face changed greatly and hurriedly flew towards the androids. Wow, what happened? Why did the car flip off all of a sudden? 17 rubbed his head and got out of the car, her clothes ripped open a few times, and a large piece of white skin was exposed. It's not because you're driving too crazy. 18 stepped out from the other side, her clothes also somewhat shattered, and rolled his eyes at 17. It's an energy attack. 16 raised her head lightly. 17 and 18, I finally found you. Let's fuse as one. Cell's ugly insect-like figure appeared above 18's head. Looking at the ugly guy who suddenly appeared, a nameless flame suddenly emerged in 17's heart, and her voice grumpily bellowed, "Where did the creeper come from? How dare you spy on this lady? You're impatient to live. Hey, the memorable date has finally arrived." Cell didn't pay any attention to 17's roar, still muttering to himself. Seeing that she was ignored, 17's beautiful face hardened, and she was about to go forward to teach the other party a lesson. Wait, how come 17 is a woman? And the big guy behind her, who also has the Red Ribbon Army logo on his body, is Dr. Gero making androids too? Cell finally noticed the difference in 17, then said, "I was born when they have been destroyed, perhaps the computer data gave me the wrong information," and saw 17 as a male. Hey, it's okay. As long as I absorb them, I can become a full body. Be careful. That guy gives me a very dark feeling. 18 warned. Got it, watch me teach him a good lesson. In the air, Vegeta and Trunks turned into a Super Saiyan state, sprinted all the way, and soon sensed the terrifying energy coming from the sky. Finally, they found. Vegeta coldly grunted, the corners of the mouth emerged in different arc. Hey, it seems that it is that gang of androids. Phew. After leaving a fierce flame, Vegeta suddenly accelerated, in the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the side of Trunks. Dad wants to deal with the androids alone. Trunks thought darkly and then followed closely. In the lookout, Ayaka had been away for several hours, while Krillin and others talked and laughed and chatted with Ayaba. Ayam was squatting alone in the corner, with a big peach gnawing hard on his mouth, skimming over with a face full of anger, and was coldly fighting with Ayaba. Suddenly, a strong breath from the lower realm. Krillin, Tian Shinhan, and others immediately ran to the edge of the lookout. Each of their faces was stony. Looked down to see. Is that Cell's key? It is so powerful that it is frightening. Vegeta and Trunks, they finally arrived. I hope they can destroy Cell as soon as possible. Ayaba walked to Ayam, picked up a peach from Ayam's basket, took a bite, and said, "Little one, you seem to be upset with me because of your mama." Ayam turned her head away and didn't answer, secretly pitying her peach. Ayaba shook her head in bemusement. What a twisted little girl. At that moment, there was a distortion in the air, and Ayaka returned, accompanied by a young Namekian. Krillin and others had met him a few times, and it was a young Namekian named Dend, who was heard to be very talented as a dragon. This child is called Dend, and he is my choice of Earth's new Kami. Now I will first take him to the Kami transfer ceremony, and you go and bring the model of the Shinran. Dend can resurrect the Shinran. Yes. Looking at the little Namekian, who looked very similar to Piccolo, he went into the room and brought out the glass cover containing the model of the divine dragon. Shortly after, Ayaka completed the Kami transfer ceremony, precisely passed the Kami position to Dend, and then came to the lookout square. They had already placed the model of the divine dragon in the square. If there were no model of the divine dragon, it would take 100 days to recreate the Dragon Balls, but the good thing was that the Earth's divine dragon was not damaged and only needed to be re-given life. Can the resurrected Dragon Ball grant Dend wishes like the Namekian divine dragon? Krillin asked as he walked up to Dend. Dend answered softly. Tian Shin asked, can it let more than one person be resurrected? Like bring back the people's Cell killed or something like that? Oh, that would have to be adjusted a little at the beginning. Only then there might only be enough to grant 2 wishes, Dend said as he held out 2 fingers. At this time, he saw the model of the divine dragon in the hood. He looked at the small divine dragon and praised, "Wow, what a lovely dragon, I'll bring it back to life here." With both palms on the glass cover, a dazzling bright light flashed up, and a beam of light rose from the glass cover, then split into 7 and flew out. It should be said that as expected of a genius with extreme dragon talent, the whole process looked very easy. The Earth Kami had been resurrected, and 2 wishes could be granted at once. Excellent creative ability indeed. Ayaka walked over and reached out to touch Den's head and complimented him. Den scratched his head, a little embarrassed. Everyone laughed. The Earth Dragon Ball this time was considered an upgrade, not only to be able to achieve 2 wishes but also become more powerful. Just when everyone was cheering for the resurrection of the Shinran, a throbbing straight to the clouds. Even the temple was slightly shaken. Then the cold and bone-chilling aura of terror spread out. Seeping oppression knocked on the heart, and the crowd could not help but reveal a horrified expression. Tian Shinhan's face was miserable, gloomy. It's a powerful evil energy. This is Cell's key. Cell became the perfect body. At that, everyone looked at Ayaka. She had seen Cell in another world, so she quickly identified it. Krillin was shocked. Could it be that Cell has absorbed Android 17 and 18? Vegeta and the others failed to stop him. It is because of Vegeta Cell will become a perfect body. That proud guy will cause trouble. To test their own strength, they let Cell absorb Android 17 and 18. What a smart mistake. With this strength, he also wants to fight against the perfect Cell. They don't know what they're capable of. Ayaka spoke. Her tone was low, which contained monstrous anger. If Vegeta was standing in front of her at this moment, she wanted to choke him to death. If not for Vegeta, who took the liberty of stopping Trunks, Cell could not have succeeded in devouring Android 17 and 18. This time Ayaka decided to give him a good lesson. Vegeta, how can you? Krillin had a moment of anger. A few drops of cold sweat flowed down. Others also froze, suddenly remembered, Vegeta was such a person, doing things without regard to the consequences. Tian Shinhan looked at everyone's unexpected expressions. He also felt speechless about Vegeta's behavior and said, the previous Android 17 and 18 have been very difficult to deal with, and now Cell absorbed them into the perfect body. I'm afraid the level will be even higher. Vegeta, even Goku who ended his training may not be his opponent. Yes. Everyone realized this. Perfect Cell had made everyone feel powerless. Even if Goku came out of the hyperbolic time chamber to reach Super Saiyan 2, whether it was his opponent or not was still a matter of opinion. But speaking of Super Saiyan 2. Swish. They turned their attention to Ayaka and Ayaba. Ayaka naturally knew their expectations. She put away her angry expression and lightly smiled, you guys don't have to worry. Although Cell is already a perfect body, I still have the confidence to defeat it. At these words, all of them were relieved, and their apprehensive and complicated hearts settled down. As long as Ayaka, the Axis, said it would work, they were much relieved. But Ayaka's following words and let them raise their hearts, but I will not strike immediately, these are Vegeta trouble. If we do not let him eat some pain, he wouldn't realize how big the trouble. Krillin and others nodded vigorously, expressing support for Ayaka's decision. This time, Ayaka was really angry. Usually, she could tolerate Vegeta's small mistakes. After all, his character was like that, and the things he caused were not big. But this time, it was too bad. He really thought that a little strength like him could be arrogant. He even dragged Android 17 and 18. Without letting him suffer a little, he would not know repentance. What Saiyan Prince? In front of her, even the dragon also has to fall down obediently. The perfect Cell power increase was very huge. If Ayaka had also begun to face him, for the time being, she could clean up the mess for Vegeta, but in the future, Ayaka was certainly powerful, by no means powerful to the edge. If she let it go on like this, one day Vegeta would stab the sky, and even Ayaka could not end it. A few minutes passed, Vegeta's ki began to decline. He had been taught a lesson by Cell. Ayaka, you hurry up if late Vegeta will die. Krillin anxiously urged up. Wait a little longer. This lesson is not enough. After a few more minutes, Vegeta's ki has been thin as silk. Sister, I'll go with you, Ayaba whispered. Ayam also did not give in. She ran to the side of Ayaka, yelling and shouting, Ayam also want to go. Then let's go together. Knowing that Ayam's strength at the moment was only enough to fight, Ayaka was still ready to take her along. By the way, she also said to all of them, this is a relatively rare opportunity. If you want to come over to watch, please hurry up too. If you are late, you won't have this opportunity. After saying that, she disappeared together with Ayaba and Ayam using instant transmission. At the battle, Vegeta's forehead had been covered with wounds, and the body flickered with a weak and dull glow. He thought he was invincible, but he had no power to fight back in front of the perfect Cell. Since the beginning of the battle, he had been in a position to be abused. Damn it! Vegeta was lying on the ground, and the heart was not willing. With a fist smashed down, the hard earth and stone crumbled into several pieces. The perfect Cell was no longer the previous bug, but rather became very handsome. The corners of his mouth slightly raised, Cell showed a victor's breeze, completely mastered the rhythm of the battlefield. Whoosh! Cell disappeared from the spot, appearing in front of Vegeta's unresponsive situation, lunging across, elbow bent, stiff and sharp part of the hard knock on Vegeta's back. Boom! Impact! Ah! With a scream, Vegeta spitted out blood. His whole body was deeply rooted in the earth and rocks. The body also automatically exited the Super Saiyan state, the whole person fainted. Dad! Seeing this scene, Trunks tried to restrain the anger in his heart. After Vegeta fainted, he quickly attacked, launched a stormy attack on Cell. Unfortunately, Trunks' overall cultivation was too much worse than Cell. The so-called storm and the rain were no different, soft, and no deterrent. Not. Then a moment later, it blew by Cell's powerful blow. You and Vegeta make me very disappointed. I originally had great expectations of you, but I did not expect so unbearable. Cell's face leisurely, as if everything was in his grasp. As he spoke, he punched Trunks in the abdomen, throwing him far away. He pooh-poohed and said disdainfully, it's all a bunch of self-respecting trash, and although. Hiss. At that moment, the space distorted, the figure of Ayaka appeared in front of Cell. Who are you? Cell slightly surprised and then lightly smiled. Although there was no information about these girls, he had defeated the Super Saiyan. Cell was confident that the perfect body of him would not fear anything. Cell, defeating Vegeta is nothing to be proud of. Ayaka said with a little smile. Cell was a little surprised, then laughed, yes, indeed not worth mentioning. I wonder what level you have that you dare to come to me. Average, it should be enough to deal with you. Trunks was a little surprised to see Ayaka and the girls appear, but thinking of Cell's terrifying strength, he anxiously warned, Miss Ayaka. You guys, please be careful, this Cell is already in perfect form. The strength is very frightening. Ayaka nodded at him and instructed Ayam, you use the Senzu beam to save Piccolo, then take Android 16 and retreat to the far side. Mama wants to try out Cell's strength. Ayam nodded vigorously and ran at a trot towards where Piccolo had collapsed. Cell, let me see how much strength you have in your perfect form. Interesting woman, but bear in mind, I will not be merciful because you are a woman. Cell pursed his lips. The light golden eyes had a bloodthirsty sneer. As his mouth said, he would not have any reservations because of his opponent's gender. Since the door was sent to him, it was the prey for him to gnaw at. Oh. Ayaka helplessly shook her head. For Cell's contemptuous words, she did not care at all. For her, the perfect Cell was also just a grasshopper tied to the straw, not worth getting angry about. Now she would beat Cell and take out 18 and 17. Ayaka nodded gently towards Ayaba, who took a few steps back knowingly, then stood to the side with her hands on her chest. "Oh, do you want to fight one-on-one?" Cell ached. This woman was really arrogant enough. He was going to beat her to death with her clothes ruined. See if she was still arrogant. Ayaka bristled, no action, but a light golden flame suddenly burst out all over the body. The light hair appeared golden, two turquoise eyes calmly looking at Cell. Super Saiyan. Incredible, this world seems to be more powerful. There is still a female Super Saiyan. Cell slightly praised, also followed by the outbreak of golden flame. Two strong ki began to collide at the time, setting off a storm of violent and rampant energy. What a strength! Ayaka sneered to strengthen the strength, and the body revealed the terrible aura that became more and more intense. Not far away, Trunks was carrying Vegeta and flew the battlefield. He opened his mouth wide in shock, showing an incredulous expression, before marveling and saying, "This Miss Ayaka's power is so powerful, almost more than Cell." The breath of Ayaka was also rushing towards this side of the Dragon Ball warriors. They had marveled until this time they had a little general understanding of Ayaka's strength. Amazing, this female Super Saiyan's ki is actually similar to mine. This is interesting. Women's physical strength is not naturally advantageous. Cell's face was gloomy. Although he was already extremely wary, his mouth was still full of confidence. It's not over yet. Ayaka's blonde hair was flowing, as she said faintly. This bit of power was only slightly stronger than the full power of the Super Saiyan, far from her limit. Ha! Rumble! The golden pillar of light suddenly rose, a heaven-destroying aura thump spread made the earth tremble. Whether it was the crowd thousands of miles away or not far away from Piccolo, Trunks, and others, none of them did not suck in a breath of cold air. This strength was awe-inspiring. The bright golden light dispersed, Ayaka's mighty shocking appearance emerged. Her blonde hair upside down straight through the clouds, the strong ki and light golden flame, were burning, the silver-white electric arc constantly flashing around the body, bursting out the crackling sound. This was Super Saiyan 2. Ayaka reached Super Saiyan 2 state for several years, and the strength was several times stronger than Ayaba. Even against the lightning form of Cell, she was more than enough, let alone just the perfect Cell. This is. Ayaka's strength is so terrifying. Piccolo's jaw dropped as he looked away, and under Ayaka's powerful ki. Cell's little ki was completely covered up. Miss Ayaka is so powerful. Trunks' throat went dry as he looked incredulously at what was happening in front of him. Since the Earth Kami was so powerful, what was he worried about before? That's the Super Saiyan 2 that Mama said. Simply too awesome. Ayam had a face of admiration, and her eyes were shining brightly. Super Saiyan 2, is it possible to transform again on top of Super Saiyan? Trunks exclaimed incredulously. Cell's face had become very ugly. The whole face could not help but twist up. This sudden appearance of the Super Saiyan was so terrifying. The previous elegant demeanor had been abandoned, and the heart kept sinking. When he saw a red-haired girl who also stood aside to remain calm, it was a tremor in his heart. This identical-looking girl was also a dangerous person. His heart ached. How is it possible? According to the computer inference, the perfect body of me should be the invincible existence on Earth only. How can someone surpass me? A computer? How can something that rigid be correct? Plans often fail to catch up with changes. Dr. Gero, no matter how smart he is, you can't expect something he hasn't been exposed to. Ayaka's disdainful voice came, then lightly stepped on his feet, suddenly appeared at the side of Cell. Cell was so shocked that he no longer had the calmness and composure of a moment ago and quickly retreated with a nervous look. It was a blow. A heavy punch. Before Cell could get back to his senses, he was thrown far away by a tiny fist concentration. The huge impact then penetrated the bones as if hearing a crackling sound, followed by a sharp pain rushed to the heart. Boom! 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 A series of explosions rose from the ground. In the crackling sound of the blows, Cell's body cut through the air, leaving a winding invisible transparent track. Facing Ayaka's attack, he, who was so powerful just a moment ago, was only able to take a single blow, with no power to fight back. What a terrifying power! Trunks swallowed his saliva, his face horrified. Piccolo stared wide-eyed at the fight in the air, surprised. Ayaka's level, we can't experience it at all. This is the Super Saiyan 2 she talked about before. There really is a Super Saiyan 2, Trunks muttered up. Seeing him a little dazed, Ayaba calmly said, Super Saiyan has several forms of existence, to the first order, for example, the most common is the Super Saiyan, ordinary, it occupies the vast majority of the space between the entire Super Saiyan. Before it, there is an angry Super Saiyan, belonging to a low degree of quasi-Super Saiyan, after which is the Super Saiyan, beyond the Super Saiyan, ordinary, realm. Currently, Vegeta belongs to the realm of beyond Super Saiyan, ordinary. Then after that, there is Super Saiyan full power. The full power state is the peak of the first stage Super Saiyan. In the Super Saiyan on the basis of the full power of another transformation, after the latter span is the second stage Super Saiyan. After listening to Ayaba's explanation, Trunks suddenly shuddered. He suddenly felt that his Super Saiyan form seemed to have only touched the tip of the iceberg. For forms, he was still in the second, even the third had not yet reached. Even Father, Vegeta, was it only in the third. So Super Saiyan 2, he could only look up. Swish! The shadow flashed, Ayaka once again struck without warning. Cell's cold pupils suddenly shrunk, a sense of danger through the nerves to the brain. He reacted almost instinctively, and he tensed his body muscles, ready to respond. But to his surprise, the oncoming Ayaka sneered, and her body disappeared once again. Not good. A strong sense of foreboding made his nerves tremble, a nervous look emerged from his handsome face, the battle consciousness from various strong people in his body kept stimulating him. Cell adjusted his state as fast as he could to deal with the impending crisis. Bang! Cell drove both arms forward to block a blow, his entire arm was shaken and numb, almost losing the ability to react further, and both hands came down weakly and vertically. After the blow, Ayaka's figure disappeared again strangely and then appeared behind Cell, glittering blue light flashed, and a terrifying ki wave came from behind. Damn! In a shocked cry, Cell was already unable to react, desperately turned sideways. The scorching ki wave flashed past his side, scorching hot energy scorched the left side of his body, and then rushed out of the earth along a beautiful trajectory. Crystal beads of sweat slid down his distorted face, which still held a shocked expression. That dodge just now, there was still half the side of his body destroyed by the ki wave. The fractured body parts moved up in blood and flesh, writhing disgustingly like mollusks, and it didn't take long for the damaged body to be repaired intact, but this repair consumed a lot of his energy, and his breath naturally decreased by a small amount. Seeing that Cell's mental state was reduced by half, Ayaka felt it was time. In order to make Cell spit out Android 18, she must first consume Cell's spirit, so that his spirit is unable to bind the energy in his body. At this point, she decided to strike. The body was pressed down, the arms were extended, the fists were clenched, and then the blow was struck. Cell's eyes widened, 2 eyes exposed clear blood, and then, a scream. Android 18 came out of the mouth, and Cell also degenerated to the second form. Impossible, how did I degenerate? I can't spare you. Cell, whose spirit was nearly broken, yelled out, his expression tinged with madness. Great, he recovered, no longer in perfect form. Trunks shouted excitedly. On that side, Ayaka teleported over and picked up Android 18, then handed it to Ayaba. "Watch her, I'll get Android 17 out too." In the second state of Cell, even Vegeta could beat him, and how could it be the opponent of the Super Saiyan 2 state of Ayaka? And it didn't take long for Cell to collapse, and she saved Android 17. Poor Cell, he had terrible luck becoming a perfect body for less than an hour and then degraded to the initial state. At this point, the strength of Cell's, any person could defeat him. "Ah! I want you all to be destroyed along with the earth." Cell was ready to blow himself up. What a fool! Ayaka frowned frivolously and wrinkled her nose unhappily. Let alone his point of power, even if it was 10 times more powerful, the power of self-destruction could not hurt the already reinforced core of the earth. But a majestic aura surged out and waved a palm at Cell, and instantly, the air seemed to freeze out of a transparent palm, slapping Cell to the ground. "Go to hell!" Ayaka lightly shouted. The huge palm isolated the air, the pressure of the vacuum filled down. The earth had cracked, and the rocks on the surface immediately crumbled into powder. In Cell's desperate eyes, the sky lit up again blue light, followed by a loud sound that resonated through the sky. Ayaka exited Super Saiyan state. After seeing Cell, who has turned into a puddle of mud, every cell had been shattered and was too dead to die. Trunks and Piccolo clenched their fists hard, waved them down, and roared with excitement, "Great, Cell is killed." At this time, the late crowd also knew what happened here, and they sighed with relief. Of course, there were also regrets missing the exciting drama, but in general, fortunately, there was still the existence of Ayaka kind of strong to desperate strong people on Earth. Otherwise, this despair was loaded by Cell to them. At the same time, Krillin and others also have deep admiration for Ayaka's strength, Super Saiyan 2 transformations. That was how daunting and terrifying strength are. Oh, Android 17 and 18 have been rescued. Ayaba, let's go back to the lookout. So, and Ayaba picked up Android 17 and 18 each and returned to the lookout with the crowd. That piece of the decaying and barren battle site, a few hours after Ayaba and the girls left, a black crystalline body from the surface of the ground. The light golden light flashed, a little bit of flesh and blood-like muscle began to wriggle up slowly. After half a day, Cell's handsome and cold figure appeared in the air, surprisingly perfect Cell. After moving his body, Cell looked incredibly at the energy flowing inside his body, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, and then laughed uncontrollably and wildly. Incredible, such a powerful force, this is the fusion of Saiyan and Namekian bloodline. I can't believe I don't need Android 17 or 18 to become a perfect body, which means I've become even more perfect. Humph, that woman did not only make me live but made me even stronger. After a life and death, Cell's body cells got a sublimation, which was a huge leap, and advanced one step to the equivalent of Super Saiyan 2's lightning form. Only he had no hair and could not do the same vision-filled transformation as the Saiyans, but there was not much difference in essence, and the strength had been turned upside down. Cell was not killed. Ayaka did not expect him to be so resilient, but even if she now knew that Cell transformed into the lightning form, it would probably not be too concerned. The lightning form of Cell power level was just a little stronger than the Demon King Dabura, equivalent to Super Saiyan 2 transformation, and Ayaba could easily fight him. Not to mention that the number of Super Saiyan 2 would definitely rise significantly in a few days. In addition to herself and Ayaba, the two old Super Saiyan 2, Son Goku, and Son Gohan, were qualified to break through to the second stage of the Super Saiyan. By then 5 Super Saiyan 2, no matter how powerful Cell was, he also powerless to resist. To be honest, Ayaka's strength had gradually stepped into the upper echelon of Super Saiyan 2, the strength and ordinary Super Saiyan 2 incomparable. As for Vegeta, he had nothing to do here for the time being, and she was ready to teach him a good lesson. After returning to the lookout, Ayaka saw Android 18 and 17 were covered with sticky and slippery saliva-tattered clothes. She frowned slightly. The two carried them and threw them into the bath, and found several sets of clothes from the cupboard on the hanger. The water in the bath was moderately warm, and the healing effect of the spring water soaked Android 17 and 18's white and lubricated skin slowly repaired their injuries. Soon, the sisters woke up and saw themselves naked and immersed in the pool, and Android 18 looked around warily. Wow! Android 18 stood up from the bath, the fine flowing water slid down her white and delicate skin, and in the mist haze, Android 18 lifted up the clean clothes on the hanger and put them on. Ah, what is this place? Android 17 stood up in confusion. Android 18 handed over a set of clothes and calmly said, "Hurry up and change. This place is a bit odd. It might be the enemy's lair." "No way, I clearly remember I was devoured by that monster cell. Could this be inside cell?" Android 17 sharply changed clothes, pointing to the room's gilded decorations. These were obviously not something that should be inside cell. Could it be that they were saved? "Let's go out and take a look." Stepping out of the bathroom, the girls were stunned. Outside was a ring of alabaster steps, and the walls on both sides were inlaid with half-meter-high golden graphics. As they walked up the steps, the view became wide, and they came to a spacious square. "This is," Android 18 couldn't believe her eyes. The golden, majestic, and gorgeous palace, with a few rows of plants planted on both sides, looked slightly monotonous, and in the middle was a spacious square. Surrounded by an empty and vast void, the building beneath their feet was actually at high altitude without a single cloud. Could this be the legendary lookout of Kami? "Ah, you guys are awake." Trunks was close enough to notice as soon as they stepped out of the cloister. "Trunks, Piccolo." Android 18's heart tightened, and the whole body was on alert. This was entering the enemy's lair, and suddenly noticed a tall figure in the crowd. Android 18's face was happy, and shouted, "Android 16, hurry up and get over here, stay away from them." Android 18, no need to worry. They have no malicious intent. Android 16 said shyly. "Yes." Krillin hurriedly explained to them, "It was Ayaka who saved you from Cell's body. We are not enemies." "Ayaka?" Android 18 remembered that it was the strange woman who gave her clothes and necklace. Thinking about the other party's identity, her face eased down. The woman did not seem to be a bad person, so she walked over with Android 17. Android 18 asked uncomfortably, "What's up with that monster called Cell?" Piccolo looked at Android 17 and 18 to them to tell, "Cell is from the future of Android, to come here to absorb you and Android 17 and then evolve into a perfect body. Vegeta let Cell be perfect Cell to test his strength, but the good thing is that Ayaka stepped in time to save you." After listening to Android 18, her whole body was frozen for a while and then stared viciously at Vegeta, who was still lying in a coma on the square. Because Vegeta repeatedly made mistakes to punish him, Ayaka did not allow anyone to save him. "I'm very sorry." Trunks apologized, embarrassed for Vegeta. If it weren't for Vegeta's arrogant character, everything wouldn't have become so tense. Android 18 waved her hand, and Android 16 they stand in a peace. "Ah, everyone is here. Even the androids are also here, eh? Vegeta, why are you so badly injured, what happened?" At this time, Son Goku and Son Gohan happened to come out of the hyperbolic time chamber and asked. "Goku, Gohan, you came out." Krillin said in surprise. "Is it Gohan? I thought I was mistaken. I can't believe I kept the Super Saiyan state." Piccolo was stunned, looking not far away from the blonde Son Gohan. The two showed the Super Saiyan state, the body, but did not leak a little key. This was the Super Saiyan full power state. This showed that Gohan's talent was really great. "This is Son Goku." Android 17 and 18 were a little surprised. Son Goku's energy reaction is very special, and it seems to be no less than the perfect Cell. Android 16 judged. "It's like this," Trunks went up and told what happened in the outside world. After listening, Son Goku marveled, so my sister's Super Saiyan 2 state is so strong. I thought after this training I could catch up with her, but surprisingly still left behind by her awe. Son Goku's words were not frustrated but rather full of admiration. Ayaka and his group returned from taking Den to visit the lookout and saw that Son Goku had come out of the hyperbolic time chamber, so she smiled and said hello. Then she said to the two people around her, Ayaba, you and Iam, go into the hyperbolic time chamber to practice. This time, Ayaba and Iam were not complaining, and the two very painfully walked into the hyperbolic time chamber together. Being overtaken by Son Gohan, Iam was reluctant. At this time, Mr. Popo carried a satellite TV, came out, and pointed to the TV screen in a panic, everyone, look, Cell is not dead, and issued a challenge to the world. No way. The group was shocked and rushed to the TV set, and it was indeed Cell, and it was still in perfect form. In the TV, Cell first destroyed half of the city in the camera. It then announced that he would hold the Cell game in 9 days, accepting the challenge of the strongest people in the world, and if the challenge failed, he would kill the whole human race and let everyone die one by one in terror and shock until the last person left. What? Cell is not dead. Without Android 17 and 18, how is he still the perfect body? Tian Shinhan said in shock. Oh, he actually wants to hold some Cell game. Too arrogant, did he forget the scene of being abused by Ayaka? Krillin gloated with a mocking look. Don't be too optimistic. Piccolo shook his head, his face hard. Have you forgotten that Cell's body contains the genes of Science, Namekian, and Frozen? It's obviously because Cell died once. The body produced evolution. How can? That's unlikely, right? Ayaka rubbed her chin, mused, this possibility is very high. Now, Cell may have rivaled the strength of Super Saiyan 2. Otherwise, it would not be such and the high-profile proclamation. At least with the strength that I showed before. Damn, I thought the android incident was over. Trunks said reluctantly, so even Miss Ayaka will have a hard time dealing with him again this time. Looking at Ayaka, Piccolo shook his head helplessly. There are still 9 days until the start of the Cell game, so take advantage of this time to practice well, try to become more powerful. Piccolo and Trunks were ready to go into hyperbolic time chamber when Ayaba and Iam came out to practice. Son Goku also said goodbye to everyone, ready to take Son Gohan for regular practice. People had been in a panic in the lower realm, from the previous dozens of cities inexplicably turned into dead cities. The streets and alleys would be like history repeating itself once again. Rumors of doomsday. Cell appeared in front of the TV set and announced the Cell game in a high-profile manner, and the fear in people's hearts seemed to be ignited at once, and then it quickly became uncontrollable, spreading a fire. In all human cities, the traffic was in chaos as people were swarming around with their families, trying to get out of the city as soon as possible. The army and TV stations immediately took action, with a unit of advanced tanks and rocket launchers heading to the Cell game site, 28 km northwest of the central city, ready to conduct a full-scale bombing rain. The TV station also broadcasted live, but the human army was wiped out in just a few seconds as if a giant will had crushed it. This demon named Cell was unstoppable. All of a sudden, the atmosphere of human fear intensified. From the earliest Piccolo threat to the later Saiyan invasion, the world was once again in panic after 4 or 5 years. The government began to mobilize. The king on the TV screen pleaded with the strongest human beings to come forward and secretly began to look for the whereabouts of those heroes. The time passed amidst the panic of the world. The soldiers sent out by the king to look for martial artists did not bring back good news. Many powerful martial artists have retired from the world and stopped asking questions. Perhaps they knew themselves well enough to know that they were no match, so they did not care to stand out and make a fool of themselves, and the whereabouts of the Dragon Ball warriors were erratic, and they could not be contacted even if they wanted to. Some martial artists wanted to participate in the Cell game and become famous, but after watching the video of Cell's battle with the army, they backed out of the game. At that moment, the TV station showed the exciting news that Mr. Satan, the world's fighting genius, was going to participate in the Cell game. On the screen, Satan was dressed fancy, and his movements were exaggerated as he made the strongest human voice since the start of the Cell game. That was a blindfold. Cell had planted explosives in there long ago. In my opinion, he is not even skilled enough in basic fighting skills. To demonstrate his own power, Satan performed his masterpiece, breaking the stone slab with a single palm, shattering 15 green slabs in a row. Roar! Satan's might enthralled the audience at the scene. "Huh, you watch, I will defeat that bluff guy. Tell him that the path of attempting to deceive all of humanity will not work." With a stream of exaggeration from the host, it was as if Satan was described as a great hero who saved the world. The king looked at the TV screen speechlessly, greeted the guard, and asked, "Who is that Satan, and how credible are his words?" The guard flipped through the information and reported, "Your Majesty, Satan is the champion of the World Martial Arts Champion and is said to be the favorite to participate in the 24th World Martial Arts Tournament to be held soon." The World Martial Arts Tournament. The martial arts tournament that was previously suspended due to the re-emergence of the Demon King Piccolo. I seem to remember that Mr. Son Goku was the champion of those tournaments. Yes, Your Majesty, Mr. Son Goku, and his companions have always been regulars of the Congress. With all due respect, the conclusion of what that Satan guy said about the blindfold is too childish. The explosion that Cell created by fighting the army is like the key wave that Mr. Son Goku and his companions used at the martial arts tournament. It should be a real power and not faked. The guard considered and continued, and according to my subordinates understand, that Satan's strength is not strong. The past few sessions of the conference participants, such as King Chappa, Mercenary Tao, and others. They are stronger than him. He makes such a mess, I'm afraid it's hard in the end. The king waved his hand to interrupt the guard's words, "Let him make a mess, at least because of his appearance the world is slightly calmer. You seize the time to look for martial artists, find Mr. Son Goku and their companions as soon as possible. We have to save the world by relying on them." The guards answered loudly and withdrew from the hall. The king sighed. Time was really an invisible poison, paralyzing people and allowing them to ignore too many things. Since the last Saiyan turmoil, the figure of the martial artist gradually entered the world's attention. The circulation of various martial arts myths, the legend of the god of martial arts, and the sacred land of Korin made huge waves at first. But after all, not everyone could afford that kind of suffering. Coupled with the restrictions of the Earth's bloodline, the seeds of the real martial artists could become only a handful of players. There were very few masters around, plus many public figures like Satan and a number of scientists often criticized the widely circulated martial arts conference videos on TV screens as blinders and denounced them as the most arrogant and shameless scam of the century. What did it mean to say that 3 people become a tiger and that all mouths make gold, coupled with the fact that the World Martial Arts Tournament had been stopped for many years and that even ordinary fighters like Satan had been hyped as the recognized favorite for the championship? How could those who had some expectations of the martial arts video believe that such unbelievable masters existed in the world? Under the effect of mainstream, authority, and celebrity, human society was divided into 2 distinct camps on martial arts. A few days later, a soldier rushed into the palace to see the king. "Your Majesty, we have found the whereabouts of Mr. Son Goku, who resides on Mount Paozu, located in a mountain range somewhere in the northern hemisphere." The king brushed himself off and looked excited. "You really found it?" "Yes, by studying the videos of the previous martial arts tournaments, we discovered from them Miss Bulma of the Capsule Corporation, and from Miss Bulma, we inquired about the whereabouts of Mr. Son Goku, who is now living with his family on Mount Paozu. Prepare the plane immediately. I want to visit Mr. Son Goku personally." In the heavenly realm, Ayaba and Iam had finished their training, and Piccolo had re-emerged and made his final adjustments. Suddenly, Iam heard some voice calling her, and her small face looked left and right in confusion but found nothing. "What's wrong?" Mr. Popo asked. He was cleaning with a broom. Ayam shook her head and came to the edge of the lookout when another voice rang in her ears, seemingly urging her to go over. "Mr. Popo, I'm going out. If Mama asks you, tell them about it. In that case, then you be safe." Ayam nodded and leaped down from the lookout, turning into a stream of light and flying in the direction of the source of the voice. After flying for 10 minutes, the voice that called out to her disappeared, and Ayam stopped in the air in confusion. "I'm here." A young girl's voice rang out, followed by the appearance of a young girl emitting a silvery glow. Eh? The sudden appearance of the stranger startled Ayam. After seeing the other party's appearance, her face became even odder, and she asked in a small voice, "Who are you, and why did you find me here?" The silver-haired girl smiled sweetly, as clear as a blue wave. Eyes looked at Ayam, the corner of the mouth curved like a crescent moon. "Ayam, I think you should guess my identity. Could it be that you are?" Ayam's face was shocked, and her body took a few steps back like a frightened bird. The silver-haired girl's face overflowed with a faint warmth, and after a moment of contemplation, she said, "Because I was smuggled out, I cannot go to see them, so there are some things you need to convey." "Well, simply put, there will be some changes on the Cell game in a few days. The enemy will be unexpectedly strong, and you have to prepare early." "Enemy? Is it Cell? Even if he becomes more powerful, Mama can defeat him, and I am also very strong now." "Oh. Well, I know your strength, but the enemy is not as simple as the current Cell, but I cannot say. In any case, you guys get ready, right?" The silver-haired girl was about to say something but decided not to. She changed the subject. "By the way, that woman called Ayaba, she will give you a good lesson in the future. How dare she crosses me? I also do not like her." Ayam nodded her head forcefully. "Well, you go back quickly, remember my words." Ayam looked at the silver-haired girl's elegant and holy, exquisite figure seemed to be greatly encouraged and soothed and smilingly flew back. After Ayam flew away, the silver-haired girl's silver eyes streamed a flash, then flew towards the location where the Cell game was held. "I can't interfere with the Cell game by then I'll go collect a few points of interest first." Central City Northwest 28 KS5, where the Cell game was held. A few peaks stand on the wide plain, and in the center, a square martial arts ring with a side length of 100 meters has been set up, with 4 pointed stone pillars standing tall. Cell floated above the martial arts stage with his eyes closed. From the time Satan announced his participation in the competition, the army had withdrawn its troops to appease him. Suddenly, Cell's face showed a hint of dissimilarity, and with both eyes slightly closed, he saw a beam of silver light flying over, and a silver-haired young girl had appeared in front of him. "This young lady is here to participate in the Cell game. You're early. The game is held in 3 days." The manners of Cell was elegant, as if a gentleman's salute, such a bland and empty mentality as if everything was in control, a sure win. The corner of the silver-haired girl's mouth raised, grinned coldly. "Cell, I do not have time for that boring game. I came here today just to teach you a lesson." "Well, you do not want someone to destroy your ring. I will wait for you at the other end of the mountain. You cannot come or not." After saying this, she disappeared into silver light. Cell was instantly gloomy, and his face was cold. Although his face was handsome, his heart was fierce, and he did not allow anyone to question his decision. "Let's have some fun with you." With a cold laugh, Cell flew up and followed her. He wanted to see what the silver-haired girl had to rely on. At the top of the hill, the silver-haired girl was already waiting there, and when she saw Cell flying, she gave an elegant smile. Then the body floated, launched an attack, and his opponent was caught off guard and woefully stroked. "Damn it!" The anger accumulated rapidly and suddenly erupted with full power. Golden flames surrounded up, a flash of silver-white winding lightning covered the whole body, and he had turned into lightning form. Transformed. The silver-haired girl was surprised, and a lightly chanted smile crept onto her face as she continued her fierce attack on Cell. Bang bang bang. Continuous strikes actually suppressed the lightning form, not giving him any opportunity to counterattack. It was not easy to take a beating on one side. Cell's face was iron blue, and the coldness of the bone seemed to coalesce and take shape, filling the whole body with awe-inspiring dominance. A substantial killing intent instantly enveloped the vast earth, and the lookout could also sense Cell's strong killing aura. Lightning form Cell could be said to have stepped into the Super Saiyan 2 stage. Every move was involved in a great deal of power. The angry state of him was even more powerful, without fear of emitting the murderous aura, making the inner diameter of the sphere within 1,000 miles of the caged space. The temperature dropped rapidly. People in the caged area felt a sickening disgust. Ah! In a huge roar, the earth and rocks under the feet in the energy penetration have cracked, blinked into tiny particles, like smoke scattered. The slightly larger scattered gravel was accelerated in an outward thrust. Swoosh! 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 Like bullets cut through the air, then hit the surrounding rocks and ground, leaving a trail of bullet marks. There was no shortage of them flying towards the silver-haired girl, but they were framed at a distance of tens of centimeters from her, and then a wisp of green smoke rose, and the silver-white flame destroyed the stone particles. There was a muffled beeping sound. A cloud of smoke spread out and soon obstructed the line of sight. The corner of the girl's eyes showed a contemptuous smile, her eyes flashed, the silver-white flame immediately spread out towards the periphery, as if to cleanse the natural light of filth, flying towards the girl's dense gravel and was empty immediately. With the girl and Cell at the same time, the battlefield was divided into two opposing camps, of which the girl was extremely strong, actually firmly in control of the situation. Her flame was like a hat that fell from the sky, wrapped in Cell's faint ki cloud. The young girl's ki flame was very special. The edge of the sheer cut constantly surged, showing domineering and tyrannical, looking aggressive to dismember Cell's aura. Still, the internal flame was extremely peaceful, balanced with each other, without a hint of collision potential. In the central mire of debris, Cell was surrounded by a silver electric aura, constantly emitting horrible suffocating energy around. Although at a disadvantage, at this moment, Cell was unusually calm. His two golden eyes were filled with unprecedented killing intent, and his strength was more than doubled with the full release. Feeling the abundant energy flowing in his body, he looked indifferent, as if the person who was in a mess just now was not him. With a steady pace, Cell slowly walked over. As he moved step by step, the condensed cold ki mass tore apart the silvery white ki flame of the young girl. The young girl wondered in amazement. This is my 100% power. Originally I wanted to save until the Cell game, to deal with Son Goku, now I'll let you see in advance. Shouldn't you feel honored? Oh, I will use the most powerful power to entertain you. In front of the overwhelming power, is your heart began to tremble? Ice-cold face carried extreme confidence, the corners of Cell's mouth raised high. The silver-haired girl looked at the self-aggrandizing Cell expressionlessly, with two calm blue silver eyes indifferent, as if looking at a clown. The young girl's attitude angered Cell. He coldly grunted. His cold cheeks twisted a bit, his body flashed, turning into a lightning strike towards her. Leaving death trails in the air, Cell was so fast that he almost formed a line from start to finish. TSK, this is 100% of your strength? What a disappointment, far worse than that woman Ayaba before. The silver-haired girl lowered her head and sighed to herself with a soft sigh, surprisingly indifferent to Cell's attack. With a happy face, Cell's heart burst into a frenzy of joy, thinking that because he exceeded his opponent too much and made his opponent simply unable to resist. When he was ready to destroy the flowers, a white palm suddenly appeared in sight, and then a slap at him. Cell immediately lost his concentration, and his whole body was hard slapped out. Boom! Along the ground's surface cut a deep gully and then ruthlessly hit a bare ridge of pure rock. The ridge instantly collapsed into a pile of rubble, the body rooted into the ground hundreds of meters deep. Ah! The sky shook, and the ground erupted with rocks. Cell rushed out of the ground in anger, and he grimaced as the invisible evil key coiled in a mass, giving a feeling of oppression to the extreme. He drew a breath as his eyes looked in awe at the young girl whose body was glowing with silver, and his heart was slightly frightened. Wiping the blood from the corners of his mouth and spitting it out with a bah, Cell shook his head and couldn't help but think wrongly.